Great. Good morning, everyone. I can see lots of people have joined already. And maybe we can just start and let other people join while we're doing the introduction. So welcome to the Work with Perpetrators European Network Annual Conference 2025. The topic this year is Digital Power, Real Harm, Addressing Gender-Based Violence in the Tech Era. So a very interesting, exciting topic that we're tackling today with lots of very interesting speakers lined up, as you've seen in the program already. We will briefly introduce Work for Perpetrators European Network and give a short overview over what we're going to do today, so that you're in line with the program, and then start with the greetings. So this is the conference title, Gender-Based Violence in the Tech Era, and Work with Perpetrators is an organization that has 82 members from 35 different countries. It's a network for organizations that work with perpetrators, work with victims, or that do research on domestic violence. It has been founded to address violence in close relationships as a gender-based phenomenon, to foster gender equality, and to improve the safety of those at risk from violence. So the program preview of day one, which is today, is the welcome part at 9:30, which is what we're currently doing. Then we have some opening words to the conference, the institutional greeting, and then at 9:55 we have the first presentation, a keynote speech, and then the break at 11. So two inputs before the break, then the interactive plenary after the break, a lunch break at 12, then a presentation on mapping the results of online work with perpetrators, and in the afternoon, keynote speeches. And we will end the day with virtual social networking, which is an exciting opportunity for you to meet other people. It won't be that long because it's an online setting, but I do want to invite you to stay to join the virtual social networking at the end of the day. And that is when we will also end this day after the social networking. So that is day one. On day two, tomorrow, we will also have a brief introduction in the beginning, welcoming words, and then the first keynote speech, a presentation, and then the break at almost 11, like today. Afterwards, a panel discussion. So it's a bit different than today. Today, we have a lot of presentations and keynote speeches. And one interactive session. Tomorrow there will be a bit more interaction. So I want to also invite you to participate in both days if possible, because yeah, the topics are quite interesting. So the panel discussion on shaping healthy narratives tomorrow at 11, then the lunch break, and in the afternoon we have different workshops that you will have signed up for already, and you should have gotten your details for signing up to these workshops via email. If you haven't received those details yet, I would like to ask you to get in touch via our email address that will also be shared in the chat now. So also, before we dive into the content, a brief content note. We will be discussing topics that some people might find upsetting. I think that will not be a surprise to anyone, considering the conference title and also the context in which we are. Everyone's also a professional in this context. Nevertheless, we want to ask you to keep in mind people's presentation will refer to lived experiences, talk about material realities and effects of violence on people's lives. So if we want to ask you and invite you to also be mindful with yourselves, and if you realize that you need a break, to just take it. And if there's anything that comes up, please also message us via the email address. Great. So these were the introductory notes, the main aspects. If there's any further questions, anything that I haven't mentioned yet that you're wondering, please write that in the chat. We're constantly monitoring it, looking out for your questions, seeing everything that you're writing. So please write anything that's unclear in the chat. Yes, so now we can dive into the content of today's conference with this very exciting topic to me of tech-facilitated violence. We will have two parts of this topic that we will be looking at. One is the digital dimension of gender-based violence, so different forms of tech abuse from the perpetrator perspective, and the other one is online work with perpetrators, which since the pandemic has increasingly become a more important topic and something that is more prevalent within the work with perpetrators in many organizations, and therefore also requires the need to look at it from a perspective of different professional insights. So those are the two dimensions of gender-based violence in the tech era that we will be looking at today. We will start first with the Dean Adjukovic, who will who I will hand over the mic to. He's the chair of the board of Work with Perpetrators European Network, and he will now give us the opening remarks for the conference. Yes, please, Dean.
Thank you, Cordelia. Dear colleagues, participants to this year's European Network Conference, warm welcome to this gathering at a period when our lives are being reshaped by technology. This is also true for relationships, including the violent ones. Online harassment and coercive control, digital stalking and misuse of data are no longer marginal phenomena, but are becoming core to how gender-based violence is perpetrated nowadays, and we must respond to these challenges. During this year's conference, we are focusing on challenges brought about by rapid rise of online gender-based violence and how we need to engage them as practitioners and researchers. Related to this, we need to explore how to effectively work with perpetrators in digital spaces. Working with perpetrators in an online environment demands new thinking, new ethical frameworks, new strategies, new techniques and practices, and of course, guidance. Over these 2 days, we aim to examine where the field stands, what innovations are happening, and what questions remain unanswered for our future work. We will start by looking at the digital dimensions of gender-based violence, how it is experienced by victims, and how perpetrators use digital tools to exert power and control. We will then have a full session on online perpetrator work, from remote group sessions to behavior change interventions, exploring both the opportunities and risks that they present. We will also look at how to work with young men and boys in online spaces and feature 5 workshops hosted by our members. Finally, I remind you that the virtual social network session will take place at the end of the first day, as Cordelia has already mentioned, which is an opportunity to connect with fellow participants and further explore and exchange their experiences. At WWP European Network, we are always proactive in improving quality and accountability of perpetrator work across Europe and beyond. In line with this, we are pleased to remind our members that the European accreditation for domestic violence perpetrator programs will be officially launched next year in 2026. This accreditation ensures safe, effective, and survivor-centered work with perpetrators aligned with the European standards and the best practices. We encourage organizations whose programs meet these standards to consider applying. At this time, I would like to highlight again, as it was already mentioned, that our network currently includes 82 members from 35 European countries, and as such is a driving force in combating gender-based violence through work with perpetrators throughout Europe. And finally, just a quick reminder for our members to register for the annual general meeting, which will take place on the 15th of October. It will be online again. This is your chance to hear updates on the network's activities, share your opinions, and exercise your voting rights on key decisions. We encourage all members to actively participate. And now I would like to extend our thanks to the institutions and individuals who enabled this conference to happen. First and foremost, to our funders, the European Commission and the Oak Foundation. Next, to our diligent annual conference preparation committee, including board members David Moran and Michelle Walsh, as well as Letizia Baroncelli from Centro Uomini Maltrattanti, Sara Prifti, Elena Gaiotto, and Dura Mirza from the WWP team, and people working in the background, all WWP team members who have supported the preparation of this conference in different ways, and Nicholas and the team from Easy Conference who have helped us bring the conference online and are providing all the technical support. And of course, thank you to all the attendants and participants for joining this conference. And now I would like to invite Rune van Leuven, Legal Officer at the European Commission, to address the conference participants. Rune, you have the screen.
Thank you. Dear participants, dear colleagues, good morning. On behalf of the European Commission, it is an honor to welcome you to the 2025 Annual Conference of the European Network for Work with Perpetrators. Let me start by thanking Alessandra, Sarah, and the whole team at Work with Perpetrators for their kind invitation to this conference and for creating this timely and urgent platform for dialogue. The theme, Digital Power, Real Harm, captures with striking clarity the complex reality we are facing today. The digital sphere, while offering new opportunities for connection and innovation, is also being weaponized to harm, control, and silence. This conference brings together diverse perspectives, from frontline workers to researchers, from program developers to policymakers. And that is exactly what we need. Because in the face of rapid technological change, no single sector, institution, or government has all the answers. But together, we can shape a more informed and coordinated European response. Gender-based violence is one of the most persistent human rights violations of our time. And as we all know, it is not confined to physical spaces. Increasingly, it is moving online, or rather, it is expanding into the digital realm, reinforcing and amplifying patterns of power, control, and harm. And although it is not a new phenomenon by any means, gender-based violence has surged rapidly in recent years, posing serious threats to the safety and well-being of women and girls everywhere. According to a 2019 survey of the Fundamental Rights Agency, at least 1 in 5 young women have already experienced a form of gender-based cyber violence since the age of 15. 1 in 3 women in politics are frequently targeted by online sexist attacks. And did you know it only takes 25 minutes and €0 to create a 60-second deepfake pornographic video using one clear face image? These are not isolated incidents. They form part of a continuum of abuse, one that mirrors long-standing patterns of gendered violence, only now amplified, accelerated, and often rendered invisible by digital means. This is what makes your conference theme so powerful. Digital power, real harm. Because we must challenge the illusion that what happens online is somehow less real, less serious, or less dangerous. At the European Commission, we are committed to ensuring that the European Union's legal, policy, and funding frameworks are equipped to respond to these emerging forms of violence and to support the professionals on the front lines of this work. Under the vision of building a union of equality, the European Commission has delivered on a series of key policy actions to combat gender-based violence. The accession to the Istanbul Convention and the adoption of the Directive on Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence marked historic steps in the Union's efforts to ensure the protection and safety of women across its member states. The directive in particular contains strong provisions to fight cyber violence. First and foremost, it criminalizes the most prevalent forms of cyber violence, which include non-consensual sharing of intimate material, deep fakes, cyber stalking, cyber incitement to violence and hatred, as well as cyber harassment, cyber flashing, and doxing. Next, it introduces a comprehensive set of measures of protection, support, and access to justice. Amongst other things, the directive obligates member states to have in place specialist support services for victims of cybercrimes, including on how to document cybercrimes, information on judicial remedies, and measures to remove illegal online content fast. The directive also includes prevention measures, including working on digital literacy skills and critical thinking to enable users to identify, seek support, and prevent cyber violence, as well as the development of intervention programs that teach perpetrators how to adopt non-violent behavior in interpersonal relationships and how to counter violent behavioral patterns. The Digital Services Act also contains strong rules to tackle online gender-based violence, notably by including clear flagging mechanisms and the appointment of trusted flaggers with expertise on these issues. The DSA requires providers of very large online platforms and very large search engines to carry out risk assessments and, should they identify risks related to gender-based violence, to mitigate such risks in an effective manner. In the autumn of 2023, the Commission also established an EU network on the prevention of gender-based violence and domestic violence. The network provides the space for member states and stakeholders to discuss new and emerging issues of violence prevention, exchange of knowledge, and good practice. These are just some of the initiatives we have delivered on to combat gender-based violence, but we're not stopping here. In March 2025, we adopted a roadmap for women's rights. It is our vision for a world where women and girls can lead, thrive, and live up to their full potential, free from violence and discrimination. And the next gender equality strategy that we will adopt in March next year will strive to realize this roadmap and the principle that every woman and girl has the right to security and to be treated with dignity, both online and offline. However, legislation and policy are only part of the solution. The other part, which is just as, if not more vital, lies in practice. This is why your work, the work of engaging directly with perpetrators, is not only difficult, but essential. At the European Commission, we see perpetrator programs not as an alternative to justice, but as an essential part of preventing repeat violence and breaking the cycle of abuse. However, what does it mean to engage perpetrators when abuse is no longer only physical, but digital and remote, when the tools used are technically complex and ever-evolving, when the evidence of abuse is scattered across platforms, devices, or encrypted services? Perpetrator programs must now adapt to address not just physical intimidation or emotional manipulation, but also digital control, surveillance, impersonation, and reputational harm online. The answers are not simple, but this conference is a vital step towards finding them. Of course, technology is not only a threat, it can also be a tool for intervention, prevention, and education. Online perpetrator programs, remote therapeutic interventions, these digital interventions have the potential to reach perpetrators in remote areas, to reduce barriers to participation, enable cross-border and multilingual programming, and integrate digital literacy into behavior change models. However, we must proceed with caution. Online interventions raise serious ethical and practical questions. How do we verify engagement and accountability in remote formats? Can we build trust, challenge beliefs, and support change through a screen? At the European Commission, we are committed to supporting evidence-based, victim-centered, and ethically sound innovations in perpetrator work. And we look towards networks like the European Network for Work with Perpetrators to lead the way in developing and sharing these practices across borders. If technology is changing how violence is perpetrated, we must also change how we respond. I want to thank each of you, from practitioners working with perpetrators, to researchers uncovering hidden patterns, to advocates fighting for accountability. Each and every one of you, I thank you for your relentless commitment to ending gender-based violence. The digital world is not separate from the real world. It is part of it, and what happens online has real-life consequences. But it can also be a space of transformation if we choose to make it so. The European Commission stands with you in that effort. I wish you a productive, challenging, and inspiring conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean and Rune, for those welcoming words and for setting the scene for today's topic.